Week 3 of football is in the books, folks. Welcome to the Fairfax Sports Report. I'm your co-host, BJ Kubaroulis for the night, and alongside of me, I've got Paul Frummelt of the Connection Newspapers and Mirza Krispahich of the Connection Newspapers. Greg Wyshynski is on break for the week, so you'll have to put up with me yet again for just one more week, folks, and we'll get Greg back and we'll get this thing rolling the right way. We've got an action-packed night for you, though, tonight. We've got another Madden-style preview of the game of the week coming up. Don't want to miss that. Our high school kids are actually in a video game. It's incredible. We've got a whole bunch of expert analysis from our reporters that have been out around the county covering football. We've got so much for you here, folks. Stay with us on the Fairfax Sports Report. Before we get to all that, we want to thank the folks that make this show possible. Of course, we're talking about our underwriters. Our underwriters make this show possible. CCI Screen Printing, 703-978-0257 for all your screen printing needs. Quality Care Ford Service Center, 703-383-6299. Hey, it's Glow Pucks and 10-cent beer, Greg Wyshynski's book. And folks, like we did mention, we've got an action-packed night for you. We want to get kicked off with some news and notes, talking really, first of all, guys, about the exciting field hockey games that have gone on in the county this week. Paul, you've gotten a chance to see some, Mirza, as well. Yeah. What team has caught your eye, Mirza, and who's the talk of the region, I guess you'd say, field hockey-wise?
Well, the talk of the region really seems to be, there's a couple of teams that are doing really well right now. I memean, Westfield is still undefeated, but the game that happened last Saturday night was a really exciting one. It was Woodson versus Lake Braddock, and Lake Braddock came into the game with a 7-0 record. Woodson was 8-1, and Woodson really lost. The only game they lost was to Stafford, which is a non-regional opponent. So Woodson was able to knock off Lake Braddock 1-0 and knock them off of their perfect season so far. So, it was a really exciting game. I mean, it was 1-0. People seem to think, low scoring, not exciting, but it was very exciting. It was a game of two halves, as both of the coaches have said. Woodson controlled the first half, unable to score. Lake Braddock controlled the second half. But as happens so often in field hockey, just because you have the initiative doesn't mean you get up on the board. Lake Braddock did bounce back Monday night, beating Lee 10-0 with a huge victory. So they're back on their winning ways as well. So, I mean, they're really up there.
And, of course, it helps Woodson to have their coach back, that coached there for so many years. That was supposed to not be with them anymore. Coach Muir over there doing a heck of a job and has done quite good work, I believe, with the Woodson field hockey program. Do you feel that has a big play into what they're doing this year?
Oh, definitely. I mean, first of all, he knows the players and the players know him. It's not a new system or anything like that. On the other hand, I talked to Coach Miller at Lake Braddock about the Woodson program, and she said they're a very well-disciplined team. They're, so well coached, and they're such a powerhouse. And she said, I'm disappointed that we didn't win. It would have been nice to win, just because Woodson has such a good reputation. But she's not disappointed with the performance of her Lake Braddock team either. So, both of these teams are really contenders. So.
Paul, you've been quite the field hockey guy lately. Who have you seen and who's impressed you?
Well, right now, as Mirza said, Westfield is really an impressive field hockey team. They beat South Lakes, the game I saw, 9-0. And quite different from Mirza's game, really high scoring, and Westfield had them pretty much from the get-go. Allie Heon, the great softball player for Westfield, also plays on the field hockey team. She had 3 goals, extremely powerful hit, and really it wasn't even a contest. South Lakes did not get one shot on goal.
Right.
So, Westfield they're great at attacking the goal and not letting South Lakes transition from defense to offense. So they really impressed me. On the other hand, I saw Centerville get to play, and they're a team on the rise. They're still working on stuff, but we really won't know for sure until we get into district play. Right. As Westfield, and Centerville and Chantilly, they all go into district play here in this coming week. So we'll see.
And the Concord district is obviously, just as it is in most sports, the powerful district in field hockey. Oakton did drop a game early in the season, guys, to Langley, which is a team that has, in double overtime, mind you. And Oakton was a team last year that, I hate to say it, but underachieved a little bit going into the Northern Region tournament, was upset by McLean. So I mentioned 2 McLean teams there, McLean and Langley, and those teams face off now in a very big game for each team. It's called the Rotary Cup, and it's obviously the local rivalry, and it's going to be a heck of a game tomorrow, Thursday. They're playing that game between McLean and Langley, and they've got some great players on each side of the ball. Faith Adams is the player for Langley that scored the game winner last year in that contest, and the lifetime record between those two schools is McLean 6, Langley 5. So going into the 12th installment of this rivalry game, I'd like to see if maybe Langley can even some things out, and I think they have the firepower to do that. I think once we do get in district play, like you did mention, Paul, I think we'll get a better way of testing which teams are really legit and which teams are just getting the big wins against the easier teams.
Right now Westfield did have in late August they had a Bulldog tournament, which they played teams like Chantilly. They did win that tournament, so they were not considered district games. So really, we just, as in most sports, we just don't know until they start district play.
The Westfield tournament, obviously one of the biggest tournaments that they do have in this region for field hockey, and Westfield slowly becoming, well, I shouldn't say slowly, but staying as a powerhouse in the sport as they are at a lot of their girls' sports over there. So good to see all the big dogs back on top and some of the other ones getting in on the action. Of course, guys, you talked a little bit about South County and Hayfield, Mears.
Yeah, I wanted to take you back. You were talking about the rivalry between McLean and Langley, and at this point, Langley probably a little bit of a stronger team, but you can never count out McLean because of a great coach that they have there, and Ms. Banbury over there. But speaking of rivalries, South County Hayfield was the last week's game, and it's the first time that these two schools have met on the field this year, and South County actually winning the game 8-0, basically blowing out Hayfield. But Hayfield coming back the next night to play against the very strong Robinson team, only losing 1-0. And now we have Robinson facing off against Westfield on Thursday, and that should be, I think, the game of the week probably for the field hockey.
Well, field hockey is in full flow, guys, and if you ever get a chance to get out to a game, this region is one of the top regions in the state for field hockey. And of course, Oakton High School will be sponsoring the state tournament this year. It's the first time in over 14 years that it won't be in Virginia Beach, near my old alma mater, Frank W. Cox High School, which had a great run at field hockey, won nearly 14 state championships. So under Nancy Folks down in the southern area over there of the state. So the first time they get to take it away from the beach and really try to prove what the northern region can do at the state level. I'd like to see one of our teams get on the board with a state tournament win.
Well, I mean, the northern region, like you said, they are becoming a powerhouse in the state in field hockey, so it's only fitting that we get to host the big tournament here.
And kudos to Phil Levine for going down to, through help with the Northern Region Council, who was allowed to go down to the VHSL and pitch a plan to get the state tournament here on some really great ground that they broke at Oakton over the summer and made some great facilities over there. So Phil Levine bringing the state tournament here and giving these kids in our region a shot at the state title.
And that is another thing we're seeing with the field hockey here is the fields are improving tremendously. I think the schools are really starting to put more effort into it, and you're talking about Mr. Levine going down there to put even more of an effort into it, to bring everybody up here to see what we have to offer as far as field hockey goes, because we have some incredible teams and programs up here.
Absolutely.
And we mentioned the Woodson, the Oakton, the Lake Braddock, Robinson, Westfield, and so on and so forth, and more.
And as we get into the year, we'll see that we will start getting more, and I say we, as I mean the northern region, will start getting more state tournaments. They got wrestling last year and was at Robinson, and Lake Braddock split that, and McGurk, Robinson DSA Mike McGurk and Martino over at Braddock did an incredible job of running those tournaments, along with swimming and other things that were done up in this region to keep the kids here on a level playing field and getting their home field advantage when so many times they've had to travel down south. So as we digress and move away from the state tournaments, let's talk a little bit about what's going to be a hot region tournament for volleyball once we get there, and always a great state tournament. Volleyball's got some true contenders from this area, Paul.
I did. I got to see Stonebridge. I got to see teams like Chantilly. Centerville is always doing well. And the game I saw with Chantilly is they played McLean, and it seemed like a really close game there coming up. First game, Chantilly won 25-23. So I was like, okay, I buckled in for a nice long game.
Right.
But then the second game, Chantilly won 25-10. So then I was like, uh-oh. And then they won the third game, 25-18. So Chantilly is a strong team. And what's interesting about Chantilly is they have two freshmen on their team, Andrea Linte and Samantha Reeves, who aren't just freshman players that ride the bench.
Right.
They're actually in there. Linte is actually a setter, which she described as like the quarterback on the court.
Right.
On the court, she's setting balls to everybody, controlling the flow of the game, And Reeves is a really powerful outside hitter who has a great hit. So those two girls really impressed me. And Mirza actually got a chance to see both in action also.
Yes, I got to see a chance to see Chantilly against Lake Braddock, and same story. Chantilly came out and really, this is a game that they lost 3-0 last year, and they turned it around and beat Lake Braddock 3-1 this year. The coach doing some really good job over there, Charles Zigbo. But I was really impressed with Linte, really. The way she was, like you said, controlling the flow of the match. She was keeping Chantilly into the game during some points. Her service was an awkward kind of service that you don't see from other players on the court, but it was very effective. And she kept serving the ball, 6 to 7 points in a row, and getting those streaks of 6 to 7 points for Chantilly at a time. So very good player, and I think we have a lot to look forward from her in the next 3 to 4 years. So.
Coach Zigbo told me that when I talked to him about having freshmen, he has 2 sophomores, 4 juniors, 4 seniors, 2 freshmen. Really nice balance. And he said, we're building a program.
Absolutely.
So, and when I talked to some of the senior players, they love having the freshmen on the team, and they feel that it's going to make their program better. And even when they're gone, Chantilly volleyball is still going to be on top.
And it's really good to see these young players getting involved and getting onto the varsity, and obviously doing well are these 2 girls, as you do mention. And what's really helped that in the northern region in Northern Virginia is all of the club volleyball that these girls are involved in the offseason, the NVVA. And I know Langley really relies on that. The Hockey Leas is their program that they help to filter girls into their program, and Langley is obviously doing really well, as they usually do. They could make a run at the region title. Back in the Concord as well, Herndon doing some good things. So I'd like to see where this thing shapes out for each district before we get into region play, but you've got some real contenders for possibly a state title. I mentioned Langley earlier. They went down to a tournament in Richmond, the U-Crops Invitational, and they took out a state title contender for this year, what many believe to be one, and last year's state title winner. So they've really seen some good programs. I really think Langley is one of those teams that may not be on a lot of people's radars because they're not in the Concord, but I believe Stonebridge took a big hit losing Sam from last year. She was a great outside hitter and also a softball player, but she's doing big things right now at UNC. So.
Yeah, I mean, definitely Ingersoll was a big loss, but they seem to be doing well when I saw them, so we'll see. And again, we don't know till district play, which is coming up soon. So it's very exciting times.
Stick with us for more reports, guys, on the Fairfax Sports Report. Once we get closer to field hockey, volleyball, we'll even talk a little bit of golf. We're going to keep you well-rounded folks there at home, sitting on the couch, thinking about all those kids out there playing these difficult fringe sports as they are. We're not just a football show, but we are going to talk about some football, gentlemen.
Definitely.
So let's jump into it. Week 3 is in the books, folks. And just wanted to mention before we got there that the Monroe Parker was a great tournament for cross country. We had a couple of great performers, some names that probably aren't surprises to the people in the region. Some guys that did some great things last year. Mirza, I know you've got some kids that really took it away.
Yeah, winning in the girls' race, the winner was Sarah Hadiji from Woodson, who is an unbelievable force really in the region. And this is a 2.98-mile track that they're running, and she ran it in 18 minutes. She's averaging 6 minutes and 3 seconds per mile, which I've had to do fitness tests before, where you run 2 miles in 12 minutes, and it's not easy. That's 6-minute mile.
And we do see Sarah Hadiji from Woodson up there, the girls' winner of the Monroe Parker Invitational. And, of course, Mike Spooner of West Springfield to her right there. Spooner, obviously, a name that so many people do know in this area, Mirza.
Right, and, the same track, 2.98 miles, 14 minutes and 58 seconds. He's actually running it in just over 5 minutes per mile.
Wow.
So, that is quite a pace, especially for that distance. And, that just speaks volumes of how athletic these kids really are.
And cross country without the even track and still making those times per mile, that's pretty impressive.
Yep.
I told you we're not all about football, so you get a chance to talk a little bit about cross country, and it's one of those underrated sports, folks, that a lot of kids in this area do perform very well, and we'll keep you posted. All right, guys, we're jumping right into football. Let's go to a little bit of impossible trivia. You gotta love impossible trivia because, frankly, it's just really not that impossible anymore. We're just running out of impossible questions. All right, our first impossible trivia question for the night: which Northern Region team finished with the highest PowerPoint total last year?
Oh, I know, that's easy. It was definitely Oakton, right?
How did you know?
Because I know everything because it's right in front of me on the sheet of paper.
Well,
You're like
obviously,
Alex Trebek.
obviously, the state champion is going to finish with the highest PowerPoint total. What you might not have known, folks, is Oakton's 28.7 was only better than Westfield's 28.3, Robinson's 28.222. Don't want to short them on any twos there. And then there was Stonebridge, 28.0. So Stonebridge, a Division V team, as we transition here into the Liberty District, folks, we're going to talk all about Liberty District football as we throw up the current standings from the Liberty District. Stonebridge had a gigantic win this week over who? Last year's gigantic state champion, Division VI, PowerPoint total finisher, Oakton. So maybe that PowerPoint shifts a little bit this year. You see Langley there with a 1-1 overall record. Marshall 3-0. Hasn't played anybody in the district quite yet. And you've got Stonebridge at 2-0 with their big win over Oakton, and Madison just evening it out at 1-1. You've got Woodson struggling a bit at 1-2. McLean just 76 total yards in their shutout loss to Yorktown at 0-2. South Lakes 0-2, and Jefferson at 1-1 on the season, folks. And that's your Liberty District current standings right now. I believe we do have a caller that's going to be joining us pretty soon here in South Lakes coach John Ellenberger. Coach, are you there?
Yes, I'm right here.
How you doing, Coach? How are things?
Good. We're trying to get healthy, and once we do that, I'll be a lot better.
Well, hey, Coach, I know that you did mention that you guys are trying to get healthy, and there is one key injury on your team that I know about, and maybe there are a couple more, but Amir Gabriel, your quarterback, hurt himself in the Barron Cameron Bowl, your first loss this year to Herndon in the rivalry game. I know Scott Reed has stepped in and done a good job for you. What's the prognosis on Amir? What was his injury, and should we expect him back soon?
He in the first half of the Herndon game, he got a face mask to the ankle. That's what they thought. It's a sprain. He went over to see our team doctor this morning, and just to rule out a fracture of any kind or any more serious of an injury. And basically, he's got a bad sprain. And right now, we went through walkthrough tonight. I still can't say who's going to go tomorrow. Yeah. So we were hoping that he would be a lot better this week. I expected him to come out on Monday, and be full go, running around, and it wasn't happening. He's still hobbled.
He's one of the faster running quarterbacks in the region.
Yeah.
Just quite an explosive athlete, Coach. And, one thing that does hurt you guys is when you do get hurt, it hurts you more than other schools because of your numbers. I think you guys only had somewhere upwards of 43 kids on the roster this year. Talk a little bit about the population issue you guys have at South Lakes and what effect that has on the football team.
Well, for Amir to go down, with us running the spread option, you obviously if you're going to run the option part of it, you have to have a kid back there that can run it. And, Amir's that type of an athlete. When Amir goes down, that takes away the option part.
Right.
Scott Reed, he's a good quarterback, but he doesn't have that element that Amir has. With us at 1,400 kids in the school, like you said, numbers is everything for football.
Right.
And it really hurts when you go up against the bigger schools like, Herndon and Centerville. But, this week we played Jefferson, and heck, I think they're same size school as we are, and we just got to go out there and compete.
Now, Coach, as you said, now we're going to be starting more of a pocket quarterback. How also, besides not having that option, how does it change your game plan?
We're going to have to run some more eye. It's always been in our package. To have the eye formation in there, you run power and lead and counter, trap. Mm-hmm. It's just something that if Amir can't go, that hey, we're going to have to go more to a power running attack and try to knock Jefferson off the ball a little bit.
Mm-hmm. That does put a lot of pressure on your offensive line, definitely.
Yeah, and we got one guy got banged up. We actually only got one guy hurt at Centerville. We were fortunate, and that was one of our Joe Lindsay, our starting offensive guard. So we're getting one back. Mike Williams was out with an eye infection, so we got one back, but we lost one. And anytime that we lose somebody on the offensive line, like last week we played a sophomore whose first varsity start was against Centerville. So you talk about an eye-opener.
That's a great yeah.
Coach, you're just entering your Liberty District schedule here, and you're playing Jefferson, of course. How much do you know about Jefferson?
I know, the coach that just took the job, he worked with, Coach O'Reilly in the years past. They're still running the spread offense. They're going to throw it around more. And from watching them on film, they only run 3 or 4 run plays. They run speed option, trap, and lead. And if we can stop those 3 run plays and, contain them a little bit, keep those guys in front of us in the passing game, I think we have a chance.
Jefferson quarterback John Seidman, obviously one of the big guns over there, and Ryan Sullivan, obviously another guy to look out for. On your side of the ball, Coach, you've got some great athletes as well. Gabe Itoka, 33 rushes, I believe 133 yards and a touchdown so far this year. You say he's one of the fastest guys in the region.
Yeah, there's no question. He's a track kid. I know there's a wide receiver over at Lee that's faster than Gabe, but at Gabe's spot at the running back, boy, I'd put him up there with just about anybody. Centerville's kid, we saw him, and he's extremely fast too. But we definitely have some weapons with Gabe, and we got the transfer in AJ Price, who's a very good athlete. We have another receiver, Thomas Mayo, who sat out the Centerville game with a nagging, knee injury from over the summer playing basketball. It's just we've got to get our offense clicking. We went to West Virginia's clinic over the winter, and that's how we, just learned more about the offense. And I heard them the other night. Rodriguez was quoted as saying something to the effect of, West Virginia is going to be in trouble when they face a team that's faster than they are. Right. And, hey, that's exactly what's happened the past 2 nights. Herndon's linebackers, they can fly. And then with Centerville, their linebackers can fly, and their secondary is extremely fast. So we just, to be honest, we just faced 2 teams that were better than us.
Yeah, the Concord District puts out some really difficult teams, and obviously you're outmanned and outnumbered in so many spots. But talking about a couple of your kids, and you mentioned A.J. Price, the transfer, mainly a basketball player at 6'4", but you bring him in as a wide receiver, and you switch up your offense there to get some more kids interested, and you spread the ball out a little bit more this year, Coach. A.J. Price, 6 catches, 149 yards, and a touchdown. That's not a bad start against those 2 tough teams for A.J.
No, it's great numbers, and AJ, I think he's a little bit nervous. He dropped a few balls in the first 2 games. We expect him to have a really big night on Thursday. Yeah, he's just he makes catches in practice that, boy, I haven't seen since we had Dustin Halinga. I know you guys recognize that name, the big football and basketball player for us, and he reminds me a lot of Dustin in his athletic ability.
And Dustin Halinga still holds some basketball records at South Lakes.
Football.
And football. And football, Coach. One of the greater athletes ever to go through that school. Coach, real quick before we let you go, just want to go around the region with you and kind of sound off on a couple of the teams, or in your district at least, that you think could make some noise. I guess starting off with Langley and some of the athletes that they have back, they're getting some accolades in the Liberty District. What do you say on Langley?
Well, I saw him on film against Jefferson, and there again, they're just they're going to try to run the ball down your throat. They did that to us last year. We couldn't stop the run at all. So they're, like you're saying, they're one of the top teams in the Liberty District. There's no question.
And, of course, Madison is always one of those teams. Coach, looking at Madison and Marshall in the game that they had last year, that rivalry game that they had that's so close, those are 2 teams grabbing some headlines right now in your district. Which one would you say has got the edge on the other?
I'd say Madison. If you had to tie me down and make me pick, I would go with I would have to go with Madison just because of their style. They're, like I just said with Langley, they're going to run super power, And I know they got away from it against Oakton, but I think they had to. I don't think they had a choice.
Correct.
Gordon's not going to throw it unless he has to. So they're going to do the old school, block it down and kick it out, and they're just asking if you can stop it.
And of course, there's a couple of other teams to look at in the Liberty, but the one that everybody really wants to talk about is, of course, Stonebridge and what they did last year, and obviously what they just recently did to last year's Division VI state title winner in Oakton. Is Stonebridge a viable candidate for a Division V state title?
After that, when I saw the paper the next morning, I was, I wasn't taking anything away from Stonebridge by thinking that Oakton would win that game. I was floored when I saw that. That just tells you the amount of athletes, that they have at Stonebridge. And then, over the summertime, you get on the Virginia preps and this and that in the paper, and all of a sudden they have a transfer in from O'Connell. They need that like I need a hole in the head. It's like the rich get richer. So I wasn't real excited when I heard that. They should have from beating Oakton and the kids that they have coming back, that quarterback, he's something else.
Definitely.
I would think that they would have a shot at the northern region and then going on to states. But we're hoping to be able to compete against those guys.
Well, Coach, we're going to catch you out there on the fields of the northern region. We appreciate your time and your candor, and hey, good luck out there and get those kids healthy.
All right, buddy. Hey, thanks a lot.
No problem, Coach. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Folks, John Ellenberger joining us, South Lakes coach. He made some great points. I think
definitely.
he spoke very candidly and from the heart, and I think that they've got issues over there at South Lakes that are out of his control, but I think he tried to switch things up a little bit this year and put in an offense that attracted some other kids to come out that normally wouldn't go out, and I think they've got some athletes on that team now of only over 40 people. It's hard to compete with a team like that.
Well, when you have a quarterback with the ability to rush, with the ability to play that option, you see that at Stonebridge, you see that at Centerville. That is it's the offense to have right now, and when you lose that quarterback and replace it with a pocket quarterback, it changes the whole offense.
Absolutely.
Makes it a lot easier on the defense to control you a little. I just know that from watching Lee play, and we'll get to Lee later on, but the way their quarterback is able to run that option play, and pretty much fool everybody in the stadium as to where the ball is, including the defenders, of course, then it definitely takes away a lot from the team.
All right, we're going to spice it up a little bit here with Stonebridge. Paul, you were at that
Yes,
game.
I was.
That's the story of the region.
I was lucky enough to be at that game, and I actually did pick Stonebridge as my lock of the week. Taking nothing away from Oakton. Oakton's obviously they won the state title, and I don't think they dropped much from this year. But Stonebridge, as Coach said, they got Devin Brown transfer. That's a huge transfer. They have Terrence Glad at quarterback. He's a touchdown threat every time. They got Andrew Nuss, and their offensive line is amazing.
Going to Notre Dame.
Yeah, Andrew Nuss, on his way to Notre Dame. So it's a lot like I said, a lot like Centerville with Van Chu and Brandon Davis. I feel that Davis and Chu are faster than Glenn and Brown, but Glenn and Brown are stronger, and they have a better offensive line at Stonebridge. And we saw that at Oakton. Oakton really, they rely on the pass with Jerry Green and Irvin Garner. And the pass was taken away from them. Early on in the game, Garner dropped 2 touchdown balls. And I think that really just deflated the whole Oakton, all the way. And Green did have a great grab to make the score 14-7. But Stonebridge is running with, as Brown told me afterwards, a truck could drive through those holes. And that offensive line is no joke with Nuss there. So if they're going to keep on running it, it winds down the clock. They keep possession. And they're really hard to stop on the run because Glenn can pass or he can just take it in. I believe he had 4 touchdowns against Oakton, so they are definitely the team to beat in Division V.
Well, and you look at the numbers for a Stonebridge team at 2-0 right now, 435 total offensive yards. and 328 of those yards came from the run against an Oakton team that has made its name on defense. So a little bit problematic on the Oakton side, but we really haven't had a chance to see truly what Oakton is. They played a Madison team that they blew out, and of course they play a difficult Stonebridge team, a game they won last year, but Stonebridge didn't drop off. In fact, Stonebridge improved from their state title runner-up appearance till this year. So interesting, we'll keep an eye on both of those teams. Moving on to Langley. Langley put up a 27-0 shutout. Its first shutout since October of 2004, since they put up 44-0 against Marshall. John Howerton talked a little bit about how they bounced back from their week 1 terrible and embarrassing performance, I have to say, against a difficult Lee team. So they snapped the ball wrong 12 times. So they mishandled it 12 times against Lee.
Wow.
And that was really the story of that game, I believe. And of course, Lee being the team they are, they took advantage of all of those mistakes. Now, Langley comes back from that. They don't do anything crazy, or they don't fumble any snaps. Peter Ferrara goes for over 120 yards. So does Josh Siegel. And of course, you've got your fullback in Justin Hurley, who had 6 carries, 20 yards, and 1 touchdown, and a guy named Will Myers, who just got in on the running game as well. So you see Langley now facilitating its tailback type running game a little bit better than they did in week 1. I want to jump to Woodson, though, real quick, guys, because what an anomaly game that was for them to only allow a difficult and high-powered offense in Westfield to score 19 points.
It's very strange. But again, like I said, we don't know how good Westfield. We know they got Tabbitt and Glennon, and I mean, we just don't know. And it is surprising that Woodson stepped up and only lost by 7 points.
Right.
I'll tell you what it is about Woodson, probably. I mean, this is what I'm thinking it is. They have a bunch of players starting on varsity for the first time in their first game. They play against an incredible Centerville team. Yes, they're all over them, but they get an invaluable experience from that game.
Definitely.
They go on the next week and they win a game. So in their first 2 games, they get a winning experience against Fairfax, and they get the best team in the region to play against them, one of the best teams in the region to play against them. They go out in the 3rd week full of confidence and having 2 games under their belts, 2 good experiences. Also, Woodson does have a good defense. Their defensive line is very, very strong. They have juniors Travis Mueller and Paul Gasky, who really do control things, and I got a chance to see them against Fairfax, where they stopped drives at key points, at key moments, first and goal, second goal, third and goal, but they don't just stop it, they move the ball back out of field goal range and didn't allow Fairfax to score. So
might have confused that young Westfield offense.
Right. And so before we jump out of the Liberty District and move on to some of our favorite impossible trivia, guys, we want to touch on McLean, a little bit problematic over there. They've only put up 12 points this entire season, and were blown out by a second-year football team in South County. Also were shut out by Yorktown, lost to Yorktown this year. So a little bit problematic to see McLean only putting up 76 total yards of offense in the game against Yorktown. Coach Rick Rivera at McLean was quoted, easily as saying, 76 yards of offense is not going to get it done. And that's just the truth there. So we're hoping to see a little bit of improvement out of McLean. But hey, there's Marshall making that improvement. The bottom dweller of the region for years has come up to the top now. 3-0 are the Marshall Statesmen. They're our game of the week this week against Woodson. And we'll get to that preview in a little bit, folks, if you hang with us, our Madden-style preview. But Marshall, they haven't really played anybody, I guess you'd say, on a difficult level. I mean, they've played Washington and Lee, Wakefield, Jeb Stewart, and they've outscored those teams 79-20. And then they play a Woodson team, like we did mention. They're struggling a bit. The wins aren't coming as easily, but they are a defensive team. I think the scoring might be a little bit lower for that game.
Well, I'd like to see them, again, I'd like to see them get more into their district. I don't want to see them playing any Concord teams or anything. But we could see what they have against Langley, what they have against South Lakes. I'd like to see those games, really.
Absolutely, and it's just good for them because they were always usually on the losing end of those games. So good to see Marshall rise out of the depths. Coach J.T. Biddison doing an incredible job over there, and they've got a bunch of athletes that we're going to talk about in our Madden-style preview coming up here in just a few minutes. But before we get to that, we're going to get to the Concord. We're going to get some impossible trivia, though, about that.
I'm 1 for 1 today.
All right, folks. At home, see if you can't quiz each other on this one. Which former Northern Region quarterback has the most completions thrown in one season?
One season.
And I threw you off by saying it was a Concord, but it's not a Concord player. If you really think about this one, had the most completions thrown in one season, folks, and you have to go back about more than 15 years to think about this one.
Wow.
Anyone? Mirza, I know you know this answer.
Oh, I know this answer. I wrote about this guy over the summer.
Tell me a little. Who is the Northern Region completion king, Mirza?
Brandon Corso, 1995 graduate of Woodson. 1990 graduate of Woodson. I'm sorry. He's back in the area. He's a really good guy. He looks back on those times, with great fondness. And he's, he was just the man back then. Woodson was at the time. They were described to me as the team that introduced the passing game to high school football in the northern region.
Wow.
And Brandon Corso was a big part of that.
He completed 211 passes in that 1990 season in 10 games. And so that's good enough for a fourth place mark on the state record book.
That's what, 21 completions a game. I can do my math.
There you go, Paul.
So how many times did they have him throwing the ball?
Well, like Mirza said, they introduced passing to the region, so I guess it was a lot. Folks, go ahead, Mirza.
He's thrown for more than 30 completions on multiple games during that season.
I'd like to know his passing percentage. Wow.
And so Woodson, again, having a quarterback now as a freshman that they might be grooming to do the same thing right now. He's running a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about that guy when we get to our Madden-style preview, if you stick with us, folks. Okay, we've got our Concord District wrap-ups coming up. First, we want to show you, though, the current standings in the Concord after Week 3 of football. The Concord, obviously, the big Concord District that everybody loves to talk about. These are the powerhouse
Hey, look at
programs. Robinson's in first place in the driver's seat there with a 1-0 district record, and they're 2-1 overall. Of course, they're only lost to Good Counsel, the private school. You've got Westfield with a 3-0 record, as does Centerville, and then you've got your Herndon at 2-0, barely eked out a win against Lee. Chantilly 2-1, Oakton dropping to 1-1 after Stonebridge. Of course, Fairfax taking the loss to Robinson at 0-1 in the district and 0-2 overall.
Oakton won't be staying down there for long.
Absolutely. We're going to see some things shift. I suspect Oakton jumping up, and that's going to be a top-heavy district with those guys, all that we see there, still doing well at the top of the district. But, Paul, talking a little bit about those guys at the top right now, we've got a team in our Connection Top 10 poll that we're going to post for you in a little bit in Chantilly that has surprised some people this year.
I'm glad. I'm definitely glad that they are in our top 10 poll. It's the stability. It's Lowley's game plan really working. I mean, they played an Annandale team, Washington Lee, lost to Lake Braddock, which is strange because then Annandale went and beat Lake Braddock.
Right.
So we're a little confusing right now, but once again, when we get in that district schedule, we can see how good Chantilly will be.
And speaking of seeing how good teams really are now,
Yes.
let's talk a little bit about our number one team on our poll, and I think that's no surprise to anybody who's been watching the show over the past couple weeks. Centerville at 3-0. Who have they really played?
Well, the thing is, they haven't really played anybody that can give them a run.
Right.
They have 2 mercy rules already. The thing is, they're doing what they should be doing. Everybody believes that they are one of the top team in the region, and they're playing like it. Even though they're not playing teams that can give them a run, they are blowing those teams out. They're doing what needs to be done, and I don't see. I mean, Westfield barely beating Woodson. They're not doing that.
Right.
So,
Mirza, interesting storyline over there for the Rams.
It's been a long time since the Rams have lost a game at home. 2002 was the last time they lost a game at home before that Good Counsel game that we talked about, 12-7. It's, in the last minutes of the game. What's going on at Robinson is the emergence of the Meyer boys, a quarterback, Timmy Meyer, and Mike Meyer at running back. And what you have in Mike Meyer is the guy that runs for over 100 yards every time he plays. Wow. He has 365 yards and 5 touchdowns on the season. And as Paul was saying earlier, when you can run the ball for so many yards, that means you're taking so much time off the clock and you're really controlling the game. And I think Coach Bendorf over there at Robinson really has to be happy with what he's seeing from his running back so far.
The Myers with a storied history in Northern Region football, of course, Principal Dan Meyer at Robinson, winning some state titles as a coach, and his brother Tommy over at Herndon. Tommy also has sons at Broad Run in Loudon. Just really lengthening that web all across Northern Virginia. And of course, Timmy and Mike now playing at Robinson and really carrying the workload for that team. Wow, one family having such a big influence on the region. Let's talk a little bit about Herndon, though, as we talked about Mr. Tommy Meyer. Boy, I tell you, they barely got out of Lee the other night. I was at the game, and it was one of those games. There was 6 turnovers in the first half, 4 of them by Herndon. Zay Lopez throws 2 picks. Chris Thompson, the running back at Herndon, fumbles the ball twice. So a little bit problematic on the Herndon side. The good thing to see out of our number 3 ranked team on our poll, Herndon, is that, yeah, they played terrible, but they still got out of there with a win.
And good teams win tough games.
Right, and Lee really put it on them. Sean Holston, obviously a speedy guy. And you've got, of course, Brandon Cameron, who we've seen. I think he might have Division I capability. Saw him running outside the tackles before the half, and then after the half he was running inside, something I wanted to see him do to prove to me that he was a Division I guy. And I think he could probably make it to that level. Matt Seeger, of course, for Herndon, really carrying the workload. Westfield, Paul, how good is Mike Glennon?
I'm not sure yet. The one thing I know for sure is Steve Tabbitt's good. I saw Steve Tabbitt in person. He blew me away. Glennon, obviously, I mean, you know where he comes from. You know he's controlling a Westfield offense with 5 touchdowns. I need some more time on Glennon. But I believe, I mean, he's got that, you know, he's a tall guy. So we'll see how he does. I mean, I know Westfield's going to be good. Let's see how good Glennon is.
The evolution of Mike Glennon will stay on it. He's the quarterback over at Westfield High School. After losing Evan Royster, who ran for 90 touchdowns in his career, Mike Glennon is now throwing the ball. The controversy of quarterbacks is over there. Josh Whitmer has been put out as a receiver.
He's a great
and those
receiver
two
too.
hooking up and doing well with each other. A great little tandem there, folks. Speaking of great tandems, we'd like to give you 2 teams from this region in a Madden-style preview of the Fairfax Sports Network's Game of the Week. Marshall versus Woodson. Got, of course, the Woodson Cavaliers versus the Marshall Statesmen. Of course, this game will be at Marshall. And as you see the players taking the field there, 1st and 10 for Marshall, you see Howell and Hurlburt in the backfield and Josh Earl split to the right there. And you see Sweet there highlighted. He's your quarterback, Harold Sweet, throwing on the run there to Hurlburt, who's just a big guy that can really barrel people over. And that's what Sweet's been able to do. He's a young guy too, sophomore quarterback. So you see Howell there in the backfield, little QB vision on him. Look, he finds him. He's going to streak up the sideline and get that first down. You see Hurlburt, Earl, Sweet. These guys are all the big names for the Marshall Statesmen. Of course, Earl split again, and hey, you see the triangle there. Ryan Goss, a tight end, that's a big guy for them. Here's Sweet. Let's see if he can make the pass across his body, and he can do that. Look at that. That's who we were just talking about. That's Goss, the tight end, for the first down. So a lot of weapons for the Marshall Statesmen this year. We're going to get a little replay of that one. See him come off the line pretty quickly. Sweet throwing across his body. Sweet's a guy that's thrown for 120 yards and a touchdown, but 2 interceptions. He's more of a runner, though, guys. 132 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground, as you see these Statesmen really giving it to the Cavaliers here. Of course, Hurlburt again diving almost for the first down for the 4th. Woodson, like you said earlier, Paul and Mears, that they really put up a good fight around the goal line, and that's going to be, well, look, Marshall going for it on 4th and inches. This is what Woodson is able to do, take that away from you. Let's see if Sweet, as he gets rushed there, can make the pass, and he does to Goss, a little showboat before he gets in the end zone.
Okay.
And that showboat right there, folks, as you see him make the catch, that one right there is for Director of Student Activities, Bill Curran, right now, who's currently having a medical procedure, and we're really hoping that he'll come out of that just fine. I know they miss him over there at Marshall High School, and he's a big reason for the turnaround and the success that the 3-0 Statesmen have had. They 5-5 last year in his first year over there, so a big turnaround because of Bill. You see, there is Mr. Gabe Thomas, Mirza, the quarterback at Woodson. He's a guy that's a freshman. Look at him run. That's really what he's going to be doing,
He's
right?
He loves to run the ball away from when they give it. They love to give it to Lawrence Nosp, who's in the backfield for them, and Nosp just loves to take it right up the middle. But when they're very good at deceiving people as to when Nosp is going to run it and when it's going to be Thomas running, as you saw earlier.
And there's the
That's
handoff.
exactly
to
what he
Noss.
does. That is
Right
what he
up the middle.
does, right up the middle, and he just takes it right down.
And so Noss going to be getting some carries, and of course I think they've got a couple of other young guys that they're testing out. There's a little play action fake, and you see Thomas going on the run, running for it. He's the guy that's been doing that for them so far this year, a guy that they're going to be looking at to carry this team to the next level as he grows up with that young offense. Of course, Noss there gets the handoff. Ooh, a little juke, and into the end zone with a little spin move. You know he's loving that right now, and he's going to get a little replay of it too.
Both of them are very capable of putting up big numbers for Woodson on the ground, and you really look for that out of Woodson. And if Marshall's going to be able to throw the ball like we showed him throwing the ball, they better stop that Woodson defensive line, because those guys can really play some ball.
And folks, tell us what you think about our Madden-style previews. We hope you'll write into us on our website. Go to fairfaxsportsnetwork.com, and you'll see an email where you can talk to us directly. Tell us what you think of our Madden-style previews. We hope you like them. Stay tuned, because we're going to tell you throughout the next couple weeks of this show how you, that's right, you at home, can win a free copy of Madden. That's right, I said it. Madden, folks. I got my copy. Do you have yours? All right, we're going to post our top 10 now, guys. This is what we, the Connection newspapers, believe is the top 10 elite teams in the Northern region. We even go as far as showing you how many votes we gave and where they were ranked in the previous week. So we're going to show you our top 10. Centerville got 40 votes for the 4th week in a row.
It's no-brainer.
Stonebridge, of course, a couple of us were thinking maybe we might vote them up.
I was thinking about maybe putting Stonebridge above Centerville, but Centerville hasn't done anything to deserve being dropped down. Stonebridge definitely a solid number 2.
Herndon right there at 3 again. That top 3 has been the same top 3 for the start of the season. You've got your Westfield jumping up. Of course, well, they did that a couple weeks ago, but there they are at 4. Robinson was tied for 6th last week. Edison at 7 last week, jumping to 6. Oakton dropping down from the 6th place tie with Robinson, and you've got Chantilly, West Springfield, and South County all tied for 8th place. Welcome to the top 10 poll, South County. Pretty incredible to see them there. What's also incredible is to see West Springfield dropping down from 5th place to 7th place. Mirza, we're going to jump in to that Patriot District, and I want to know from you, what happened?
What happened with the West Springfield?
What happened?
Well, people are going to hear this next sentence, and they're going to be wowed, and they're going to think maybe somebody went wrong at some point. Here's a sentence. Peter Lalich, the UVA-bound quarterback, threw for 5 interceptions against Edison.
Wow. I'm thinking wow right now. But there's a reason for that.
There is a reason for it, and don't make no mistakes. Lalich is that top quarterback. When you see him drive down the field, he controls the game. He has his team, he knows how to play the game. He knows when to throw the ball. He knows when to run it. What Edison knew about Lalich or about West Springfield, was that they were going to try to make some big plays, and they sat back and waited for that. And that's how they got their 5 interceptions, 3 of them in the end zone. So that should tell you a little bit about that game wasn't necessarily, the score isn't indicative of how that game went. It's just that Edison did a better job of controlling the ball when they had the ball and not giving up the big plays, which West Springfield did give up.
Also sounds to me like Edison did a great job of scouting and getting their game tape and seeing which plays and which options Lalich likes to take when he gets near the end zone and what plays West Springfield is calling at that time. Is this a problem that we're going to see with him continue, or is he going to learn from this and move on to the next level and be the elite quarterback that UVA believes they're getting and that this region knows he is?
I strongly believe he will learn from this. He's going to study that game tape. I know that Coach Renner is going to make him study that game tape, and I know he's going to want to study that game tape because he really is that quarterback. You heard from the Stonebridge coach, Mickey Thompson, about how good he is.
The only way Stonebridge could stop Lalich was to not give him the ball.
Exactly. And, I mean, he really is that good. Don't make no mistakes. 5 interceptions is not indicative of Lalich. It may be a good indication of how good Edison is, but we'll get to them later.
Well, we're going to breeze right by Annandale because they've been a little bit up and down from the beginning of the season, but Nate Cartagena brings that team back, and they win versus Braddock, and so that's a great rebound win for Cartagena and Annandale. And people should know that he lost his running back from last year who transferred out of that school in John Logan, so he's really, you never want to say this about football, but the kid's kind of a one-man show, and he's really holding his own for that.
Doing the brunt of the work, we'll say that.
Right. And Mirza, we're going to jump right to Lee because this is a team from the very beginning of the season that you've been touting as a contender in that district. I saw them against Herndon. We talked about some of the weapons they have in Brandon Cameron and Sean Holston and some of the guys, Chris Oderson, their quarterback, who doesn't do anything flashy but really facilitates a heck of an offense under first-year coach Rob Everett. What do you think Lee really can do in that district?
I think Lee is a very strong contender in that district. And I don't know. I mean, I have to see them within the district a little bit more and see if they're going to be able to step up to that notch, because they were close to it last year as well. I mean, they were a win or two away from, maybe taking that top spot from Annandale. I think this year, if they are not going to be the team that's going to win it, they're going to be the team that's going to knock off some other teams. And they're going to come into play somewhere at the end of the season, and don't count them out.
I'd like to get a chance to look at the current standings in the Patriot District. Before we do that, just want to talk a little bit more about Lee. I did get a chance to talk to Coach Everett after the game, and boy, were they excited. He said it was a benchmark game for them. It wasn't a win against Herndon, but I'll tell you, they took it to the Hornets, a team that we believe is a region powerhouse. Mm-hmm. And, there was no excuses. There was no rain. I mean, there was, but none of that played into it. They were a hard-nosed football team that I believe is going to make a big amount of noise in that district. I really believe that Brandon Cameron, Sean Holston, and those guys can carry that team. Their defense actually impressed me as well. They're speedy. They get to the ball. They made a great quarterback pay for making mistakes. So I really think Lee's going to do a lot of good things. Let's look at the current standings in the Patriot District. We'll see South County. Hey, who's that? South County. That's a second-year program. Not a lot of people even know that that's a team or a school in this region. And here they are at the top of the Patriot District, 1-0 overall, 2-0 overall. Annandale, 1-0 in the district, 1-2, and you've got Lee at 1-2, West Springfield at 0-2, West Potomac 0-2. Hey, there's Hayfield, the team that was hurt by South County being split off from them at 0-3. They're still feeling the pain from that split. You've got TC at 0-1 in the district and 2-1 overall. They've been a little bit up and down. Not too sure what to make of TC. And Lake Braddock 0-1 and 1-1 overall, guys. What's the team on there that surprises you right now?
Well, it's definitely West Springfield. I mean, West Springfield 0-2, that's surprising, and that's not going to continue.
Well, that's not going to continue for a couple of reasons. First of all, they are a very good football team, and you can see that when they do drive the ball. The reason why they're 0-2 is because they've played Stonebridge, Division 5 state finalist last year, and a contender this year, right. And Edison, Division 5 regional finalist last year. So they had two regional finalists. The bad news for West Springfield is it doesn't get any easier as they play another district champion from last year. Both Stonebridge and Edison were district champions in their districts last year. This week, West Springfield has Annandale, who was a district champion last year. The team that surprises me is South County, of course, with a 2-0 record, and there are reasons for that. I mean, you have an excellent coach in Pete Bendorf over there, yeah. And he had his entire team back from last year basically. Wow. So he didn't lose anybody to graduation. This is the only year that he has that chance. That he's not going to lose anybody. The big player over there, somebody making big noise, I think, is their kicker. Wow. Garrett Watson. He's 3 for 3 on his field goals, but the thing that's impressive is those field goals came from 41 yards out, 46, and 47 yards out.
Wow. 46 yards in high school is extremely impressive.
A quote from Pete Bendorf, the coach, is, if we get to the 30-yard line, we have a chance of scoring. And that isn't, often in high school football. So, really, the offense only has a really short field to play with. If they get to the 30-yard line, South County is able to put up points.
And then again, you have other teams that can't even get an extra point. So, that's a big thing to have a reliable kicker who can put it through the uprights from 47 yards out. That's a Division I kicker right there, folks. And every week we write about these kids in the Connection newspapers. If you don't get your local Connection newspaper, you can make sure you can get that through certain ways of going on our website and finding ways of contacting our office. But there is something special that we do every week. It's called the Pigskin Page, and we do a top 10 poll. We do our picks. We give you the standings. So a lot to learn also from our website. Mirza was just talking about South County's kicker. He wrote about him this week in his report on South County. So there's so many ways of getting this information that we're giving you now through our Connection Newspapers website. So stay tuned. We'll tell you a little bit more about how to get that information, folks. Let's move on a little bit, though, to Lake Braddock, Mirza. What's up with Braddock? Are they up? Are they down? Are they mediocre? What should we expect out of them?
Lake Braddock, just like most of these teams, as we've said, we have to wait until the district play. This is a team that 2 years ago was 0-10. Last year was 6-4. Right away, they're going to be, you don't know what to expect from them. They're 1-1 currently, beating the good Chantilly team and losing to a good Annandale team. So still you don't know. This week they play an 0-3 Hayfield team. The tricky thing about this is that Hayfield is 0-3, having played against top teams in the region,
right,
in Centerville, Westfield, Robinson.
They've gotten beat.
That experience is invaluable. And they've held their own for most of the game in each of those games. Robinson was only up 7-0 on them until the very end of the game. So, this is a very interesting game in the Patriot District coming up this week, Lake Braddock at Hayfield.
One team we do want to talk about in the National District before we get out of here, and we want to show you the standings in that district to show you just how well those Edison Eagles are doing. 3-0, Mirza, to start the season. Wow, we really think they have a shot to go undefeated. And Falls Church right behind them. And, of course, you've got your Yorktown, Mount Vernon, Valley, Stewart, Washington and Lee, and Wakefield. A lot of teams from the National are on the bye this week, so we won't be seeing them in action. But tell us a little bit about Edison, Mirza. They're just a sick team, aren't they?
Edison is unbelievable. Before the season started, I talked to Coach Lewis over there, and he really talked down his team. He said, we got to see how the running back is going to respond. I'll tell you how he responded. 85-yard touchdown run against West Springfield.
Wow.
Bam. Sean Lloyd, Coach Lewis told me, how are our seniors going to lead the team? Sean Lloyd, a senior quarterback, 3 touchdowns against West Springfield, including an 80-yarder. They have athletes in skill positions. They have very strong kids on the lines. They are a legit football team for this region and regional contender in Division 5. So.
Hey, they could go 10-0 with the schedule that they do have. So
Definitely.
We'll see if Edison can put up the kind of year that they had last year, guys. We do want to touch on this briefly before we get going. A couple of suspensions did happen in this week's game versus Centerville. So West Potomac losing nearly, I believe, 17 players. They went over, or excuse me, it was a game against Mount Vernon. They'll be playing Centerville this week. The rivalry game between West Potomac and Mount Vernon was marred by some controversy. West Potomac students allegedly went over and spray painted the rock at the school. Mount Vernon students have since retaliated and done some more graffiti back at the other school. So read our Connection newspaper for that to see the update on those students and what's happening. Before we get going here, folks, want to get to our underwriters and, of course, the folks that make this show possible. FSN's game of the week, though, will be Woodson at Marshall this week, as you saw in our Madden preview. Then we go to Herndon at Robinson and Oakton at Centerville, getting into the meaty Concord games. You can get those games on Cox Digital Cable on demand. Check our website for details. Hey, it's a re-air on Channel 10 this week at Madison. It was taped on September 8th. So it runs Saturday at 4:30, Monday at 3:30 on Cox and Comcast Channel 10. FSN's on the web. Check us out. Interesting bios, pictures. You can read all about Mirza and Paul.
Hey.
FairfaxSportsNetwork.com. CCI screen printing, making it all possible. 703-978-0257. And of course, Quality Care Ford Service Center, servicing all makes and models. 703-383-6299. And Greg's book, Glow Puck and 10-cent beers. Hilarious. Thanks, folks, for joining us here on the Fairfax Sports Network. Of course, every week you can join us on the Fairfax Sports Network for the Fairfax Sports Report to hear about all your local teams and more Madden-style previews.